So let's start with the known, and that is presumably the top three in the Padres pitching rotation coming back. Yu Darvish, who's still under his long-term contract extension. Dylan Cease, who has one more year of arbitration remaining and team control. The same as Michael King, who is coming back for one more season of team control. I would imagine, given A.J. Preller can do some things that are unexpected and unpredictable, but I would think the plan is that those three guys will be fronting the Padres starting rotation next season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the only one that you may be able to look at potentially being moved in the offseason is Dylan Cease. It's not that Dylan Cease isn't a good pitcher. It's not that I don't like Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has some value. He is 29, Ben. I would say he's at the top of his craft right now. Obviously, we did not like what we saw from him in the postseason. It was a real disappointment. That's nowhere near enough to be able to cut a guy loose. That said, is he a guy you want in your rotation for the next 7 years? And I do feel like he will command some sort of Joe Musgrove-esque type, maybe more deal. And I don't know that the Padres should dole that out to, another guy that's going to be 35 when his contract ends.
If they are only going to extend one of the two between
King.
Dylan Cease and Michael King.
It's Michael King.
And I tend to agree with you that Michael King is probably the priority. You'd be foolish not to at least listen for offers. With a guy who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and if you don't have serious plans to bring him back, well, what value could you get from another playoff contender that is desperately in need of starting pitching? And there will be teams like that out there. Again, there are a lot of options on the free agent market as well, so I don't know if teams would be willing to fork over, young pitching, talented prospects. But Dylan Cease is a premium strikeout guy in a league that values strikeout-type pitchers, and he's that. Now, the Padres value it highly as well. I expect him to be in the Padres starting rotation likely at the start of next season. But you have to at least acknowledge the possibility that A.J. Preller could take phone calls and, Dylan Cease could be someone who's discussed. So
the value that he brings, Benny, obviously he made every start. Made 33 starts last year for this team that needed it. His ERA was 3.47, which these days, bro, that's fantastic. Threw a no-hitter, we know that. Struck out 224 batters. That's all great. This organization, I think, you look at what other organizations do and how they handle their business, and it's more of it's the big boy moves that we've talked about. Like, as much as you like him, as much as you think, maybe you should bring him back, he's going to cost so much cash. And I believe he's a Boris guy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he's one of those guys where you're like, I can't pay this guy $25 million a year for the next 5 years. It's probably not in the budget, and it's probably not the smartest thing to do. But you could absolutely start him in the rotation, Ben, and see what happens. You could here's another thing you could do. You could just pitch Dylan Cease all year and let him walk in free agency. You could get 220 innings out of Dylan Cease and let him walk. That doesn't make We've
seen the Padres do that with other pitchers and players before. And since they
doesn't make you a bad guy.
Since they expect to be playoff contenders, it's not even the worst strategy, but you do have to at least look and see, potentially what a market might be. So beyond those three, the internal options, I think you have to start with the two guys who were the internal options this season, Matt Waldron and Randy Vasquez, as your kind of first two in-house guys that you'd be looking at to making more starts. Matt Waldron, who, of course, was so valuable for the Padres for several months of the season, kind of ran out of gas, was not part of the rotation except on the last day of the season when he came back. I don't know what it looks like, next season for Matt Waldron. I would like to think that he can come back, and if he can be the pitcher that he was for the better part of 2024, then absolutely there would be a place in the starting rotation for Matt Waldron. Do the Padres trust him? Do they trust that knuckleball that, he can use it in the right mix and right percentages to get major league batters out?
Yeah,
if he can, then Matt Waldron could be one of those guys in the starting rotation.
And what can Matt Waldron improve on, next year? The stuff that I heard from Matt Waldron from them and from guys like Joe Musgrove, we talked about this a few weeks ago, them telling him, bro, you belong. You're good. Like we're counting on you. You're throwing huge innings for us. Like, and Matt Waldron saying he never really felt like he was elite or belonged. Like, what can he work on in the offseason to get better? He seems like a guy that is willing to do whatever it takes. So I have no problem, man. Again, knowing full well our roster on August 1st is going to look different than our roster on April 1st because of who our general manager presumably will be. Have a ball, man. Let's get it figured out. That's what the early part of the season is for. You're not going to be the only team that's figuring out your 5-man rotation, at all. You still got Brito. You still got Vasquez. You've got, there's always the potential of doing something different with Morihone. You still have arms. And what you were able to accomplish this season should give you a lot of trust that they'll figure it out at some point. And if you're not getting the job done, you're not going to be on the team.
I think clearly with Waldron, dialing in the knuckleball, as consistently as possible with no spin, letting it do its thing. You will have some inconsistent results, as any knuckleballer does, but they want him to up the usage of that. If he's going to be in the rotation, they don't want him to be a 20% knuckleball guy.
Like a 70%.
They want him to be a 50, 60, 70% knuckleball guy. Maybe
be it all the way, right?
One secondary breaking ball pitch, if you can add a little sharpness to,
a sweeper
or something, and be basically those two guys with, an up in the zone fastball to keep guys honest every once in a while. That's, I think, the path to the most effectiveness for Matt Waldron.
I am down to load Waldron's cauldron again and see what happens. And because, again, when it was on, and when he hit that little streak, not little streak even, the really solid run that Matt Waldron had for this team was so beneficial and so kept us so afloat and above water and in it. This season does not look the same without Matt Waldron in it. It just doesn't. So I think he did a great job. People suggesting stuff in the chat. Sure, man, fire away. Sean Reynolds to the rotation.
Let's start with Randy Vasquez, because
okay.
I think he's option 1B at this point. He did a lot of good stuff. Inconsistent, but he is a pitcher who is kind of heading into his prime now at like 26. Showed some good things at the end when they needed him to make some spot starts. Last start was really, really good at the end of the season. He needs to continue to develop, but Padres have done a good job with Ruben Niebla of continuing to develop pitchers. And if he makes at all a step forward, he's absolutely a viable starting rotation member as well. So just with those, you've got a 5-man rotation. Now, you need more than 5 over the course of the season. So, yeah, who are some of the other guys that are currently on the roster that you could project? Sean Reynolds, don't know how many innings you could ask out of that guy as he transitions from being a position player to a pitcher. I see him more as a bullpen option. Adrian Morihone clearly has done starting in the past in the minor leagues. You could once again think about trying to stretch him out and make him a left-handed starter, although I think he has a lot of value as a left-handed reliever at this point for the San Diego Padres. I look at a guy, Brian Hoeing, as someone who already has pitched multiple innings. Does he have enough of a mix to face, the lineup 3 times through and be a starting pitcher? I'd imagine that is also part of the discussion right now of in-house options for the Padres.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Did you pull up a list of potential free agents?
I did.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so it is actually a pretty deep list. There are enough guys out there that I'd be surprised if the Padres didn't land on at least 1 or 2. At the very top of the market, the big time looking for a big free agent contract guys. We'll start with Corbin Burns. You've got Garrett Cole, who's going to be hitting free agency and looking really sharp.
Is he? He's got an opt-out.
He's got an opt-out. This is according to Baseball America. These are who they expect will probably be free agents based on what they imagine. Some of these, like Blake Snell is on their list, another potential opt-out guy, but expected to opt out.
Scherzer, Verlander, Garrett Cole, Blake Snell at the top.
Max Fried.
5 years ago, it's a really, really good class.
Max Fried is. They don't have They have Scherzer at the 25th to 30th on their list. As a potential, late season rental. But Max Fried, Freddie Peralta, Jack Flaherty, of course, was a rental for the Dodgers and expected to hit free agency. I would imagine they'll try to lock him up. Another trade deadline guy, Yusei Kikuchi, is going to be a free agent. Nathan Eovaldi, who was so good for the Rangers in their World Series run not that long ago.
There's arms, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of arms.
I mean, this is, if you want to go deep, Sean Manaea, who's coming off looking to cash in off a really great season for the Mets.
Walker
Severino, Walker Buehler, Michael Wacha could opt out again from his contract.
Martin Perez.
Nick Martinez, if you're looking for old friends and reunions, could opt out of his contract.
Jeez.
Shane Bieber, if you're looking for guys coming off injuries.
That worked with Ruben before.
Bounce back seasons, Jordan Montgomery could opt out again, or he may just opt in and keep his money with the Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray is a former, Cy Young Award winner, right?
Yeah.
Merrill Kelly, really good pitcher. I mean, there's a lot of names on this list. Injury bounce back guys like Frankie Montas. And then, as you mentioned, there's also, 1-year guys, Lucas Giolito, Michael Lorenzen, Jose Quintana, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, if they want to pitch again another season. There are plenty of names to go around, and that will likely drive down the prices on some of those guys. Now, you'll probably have to wait, until February, until guys are getting a little bit desperate and going, all right, I think I need to take the best offer. I think the Padres are well positioned, though, in that sort of situation. It's an attractive place to go play. People like playing at Petco Park, and if you're
Pitchers
looking
like it, yeah.
If you're looking at a place like, hey, I'm going to go 1 year somewhere, rebuild some value. I know they've got Joe Musgrove coming back in 2026, but if I have a good season at Petco Park, good pitchers park, got good defense behind me, got a good team to go play, and a good atmosphere in a great city, yeah, I think the Padres will be definitely an attractive destination for some of these free agent pitchers this offseason.
Some big names out there.
Absolutely.
And not only the big names, it's the names that you can look at and go, okay, yeah, that guy could absolutely round out the back of our rotation. Or I just feel like, Benny, I don't know if you're like me, but I feel like there's probably going to be 10 of these guys sitting there looking for a job.
I think so, too.
You know what I mean? Like,
I've seen that.
Like when spring training starts, if you could be, if you have a target and you want that you don't think you're going to have to overpay for, obviously you're going to go get it. But you do get the feeling there's going to be 5-10 starting pitchers, 5-10 decent relief arms out there as well. There's a ton of guys.
Yeah, after like Corbin Burns and, if Blake Snell opts out, after they get their deals, Max Fried and Freddie Peralta, I think there's going to be a lull then. You'll see like those deals probably winter meetings, December, get those done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll be that dead period for like a month and a half where no one's going to overpay. Everyone's going to be kind of waiting out the rest of the pitching market.
Yeah, gun shy.
And then as, end of January kind of hits and spring training gets closer, you'll start seeing guys signing and making decisions as we get closer to spring training.
And the other thing that you could potentially look at is there's a few pitchers that did end up waiting to sign until late, and they didn't play well. They did not pitch well at all. So that kind of works in your favor if you're on AJ Preller's
Will there
side.
be a Nick Martinez out there who just wants to sign quickly, not necessarily break the bank,
Right.
but just know, like he did with the Reds. He signed. He was like the first guy to sign last offseason, and it wasn't a break the bank deal, but he just wanted certainty.
Get it out of the
He
way.
didn't want to wait all offseason. He wanted to know where he was going, and he did. And,
Yeah.
and he made his deal. Could you sneak one of those guys in early? Possibly.
Potentially,
Possibly,
yeah.
potentially.
Satan's Blowfish, good question here. Is Snell going to get a good or quick deal? I don't know. He still remains to me the world's biggest enigma, and I would love it if he was in our starting rotation next year. But I don't know what he's going to command. I don't know what he's looking for. I got to imagine
He's walking from 30
he's walking from 30 because he probably wants 4 more years, right? 4 to 5 more years. He really has an opportunity to get one more big contract. And same type of situation in San Francisco. Wasn't ready, didn't have a spring training, was pissed at Boris. They waited too long and had a really crap first half of the season and then was filthy in the second half, as he usually is.
I think I saw it's probably a Bob Nightingale tweet after Snell dominated in the second half of the year. Like, well, not going to have any trouble getting that free agent deal this year.
Are you sure?
He was literally the Cy Young Award
he won
winner
the Cy Young
last year, and he had trouble getting a deal. And now
Yeah,
he's,
dude.
a year older. I don't know if Blake Snell is going to have trouble getting a deal or not. I don't know what has changed between last year and this year. He didn't prove anything other than what he had already proved.
Yeah, he proved that, like, when he's on, he's one of the nastiest pitchers on the planet.
But he's also probably going to get off to a slow start.
Do you have?
And can you weather that?
Can you mitigate the slow start with getting him into spring training? Like if I'm AJ Preller and I have the money and I want Blake Snell back, I'm making that call. When does free agency start? When can we make that call? After the day after the World Series?
5 days after.
5 days after the World Series.
Yeah.
I say, Blake, we want you back. You'd love it here. Let's go. Because you got to get him in. You got to start putting him through the paces now. The longer you wait with Blake Snell, the worse it's going to be in the first
Still
half.
has Scott Boras as his agent.
Oh, does he?
I don't think he replaced him. So I don't expect a discount deal off the top of the market.
Is he a half-season starting pitcher if you get him in and get him in early?